want to make sure you can see my plants. Hi! Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 best parts about being in a LDR, which is a long distance relationship. Ever since Corona hit, a lot of relationships have had to go from more traditional to long distance, and I'm here to share my top favorite parts about having to be in an LDR. Being in an LDR doesn't always have to be all bad, it could also be beneficial to your relationship, and that's what I want to talk about today.
I really gotta hold on.
So if you see me looking down, I do have my tablet in my hand, and that's going to be what I take notes on and how I remember what I'm going to say. But my first point is that you get to learn how to argue with your partner. Now that might sound weird to say, but learning how to argue effectively is one of the most important things you can do with the person that you love. You have to choose what you say really, really carefully, because there's not really many ways for your partner to see the inflection of your body language. So if you say something, you have to really think about how that's going to come across to the other person. You can't just say things and expect or hope that they know what you mean, because they're not there with you. They might not know what you mean. You also can't rely on body language and the vibe at the moment, because there is really no way of telling what the vibe is if there's only you in the room. So learning how to communicate effectively is probably my most favorite part about being in an LDR, because that's a skill that I can use even when I'm not in a long distance relationship. The second one is you get to bond with them and learn about them in a way that you never would if you weren't in an LDR. When you're in a long distance relationship, all you can do is talk, which means that the time that you normally spend doing something with that person, going to the movies, going on walks, going on dates, just hanging out with them, you don't get to do that anymore. So instead, all you do is talk. And when you're talking, you'll talk about your past, your dreams, your beliefs, your hopes, your what you want in the future and everything. You get to learn about them super quickly, probably way more quickly than you would normally in a regular non-long distance relationship. And I think that that's also one of my favorite parts, because who doesn't want to know more about the person that they love? And you don't realize how much you're learning about them when you're not with them, because let's face it, you're not really talking when you're together. You might also get to see a different side of your partner that you normally don't get to see. If your partner isn't usually verbal and now they're forced to be verbal, you may see a different side of them emerge as they become more verbal, or as they work with learning how to make their emotions become verbal. Same with yourself. If you're not really a verbal person and now you're forced to talk to your person to tell them how you feel about them, it's an interesting change to see yourself go through that. And it can actually be positive change, because then you learn how to more effectively communicate your emotions and more effectively listen to those communicating their emotions to you. My third best thing about being in an LDR would be that when you see each other, it's super special, because you spend so much time apart from each other. When you finally get to see the person that you wanted to see, it feels like the best thing ever. In my case, you only focus on that person, you plan things ahead of time, so you have a really good week or 2 weeks or however long you're allowed to see them, and you only focus on each other. You really get to focus on what you feel is important, and you may even retouch on things that you've talked about when you were not together, but when you were not in person. And that's also cool, to talk in person about things that might have hurt your feelings, or that you might not have understood about what the person said when you guys weren't in person to talk to each other. I'm not sure if anyone else has had an issue where maybe they are trying to have they're trying to make a date night with their partner and they're not long distance relationship, and sometimes it can be, you see them all the time, so it's less special. It might feel less special. In an LDR, that rarely ever happens, because you don't get to see each other very often. So you've talked, but now you can finally see each other. It feels like the best thing ever. So I really like that about being in an LDR. My fourth The fourth best thing about being in a LDR would be that you learn how to express your feelings in different ways. If your love language is quality time or physical touch, this can actually be really tough, because you're used to being around someone to show them that you love them, or you're used to hugging someone or kissing someone to show them that you love them. In LDR, obviously you can't really do those things in person, so you have to find other ways to show the person you care about them. This can actually be really, really fun and can open up your eyes to things that you didn't know that you were into and that you didn't know that your partner was into too. For example, you can DoorDash each other meals, you can send each other gifts, you can mail each other notes in the mail, draw each other drawings. Me and my partner do this thing where I'll eat a meal in my room on my desk and he'll eat a meal in his room on his desk, and we'll both put on something nice and we'll act like we're having a date. So even though we would normally go on, you know, dates and go to the restaurant or whatever if we were in person, it's cool to reenact that when we're not in person, as well as doing things that we wouldn't do in person when we're not in person, such as sending each other letters and DoorDashing each other food, stuff like that. It's also really heartwarming to see your partner get creative in how they choose to show you that they are thinking about you or that they love you, and it can actually make you remember and realize how much they love you and how much they're thinking about you, that they would go out of their comfort zone, or they would be creative and think up something new of how to show you that they love you. My partner sent me this glass little desk topper, and it has a rose bouquet that says I love you, and it has pictures of us, and it spins, and when you put the batteries in, the whole thing lights up. And it was super, super, super thoughtful. It came out of nowhere, and this stuff like that will stick with me forever. My fifth and final best part about being in a LDR is realizing how much the person that you're in an LDR with means to you. There is a lot of dedication that goes into being in a committed relationship, even when you're not in a long distance relationship, but it's even more so when you're not able to see the person, touch the person, kiss the person, interact with the person. All you can do is call the person and text the person. That's a huge amount of dedication and love and trust that goes into that. So having to go through a long distance relationship with someone that you love really proves to you, to yourself, and to the other person how much you actually do love them and how much you actually do care for them. It's like you would rather be in a long distance relationship with them than in a non-long distance relationship with anyone else. And I think that means a lot, and it shows a lot towards how much you care about them. And that is my top 5 best things about being in an LDR. Of course, I don't think anyone necessarily wants to be in an LDR. It just kind of happens to people, especially during times like these when borders are closed and people are forced to be away from people that they love. They kind of have to make the best of the situation that they're in. But all you can do is stay positive. So thank you for watching, and see you later.